Hello everyone, great to see you. I'm out here in western North Carolina. It's bright and early, the sun is just coming up, and I have an amazing waterfall just behind you. And I'm super excited to walk you through everything and take you through this shoot.
You got me tripping, ever since I saw you, I went slipping, didn't even know you, couldn't even breathe without you. It's how I'm feeling, all I ever wanted, you I'm digging, it's how you got me started, couldn't even be without you. I wanna be by your side, that's what I'm trying to say. You got me breathless.
So I know the waterfall's a little noisy, but hopefully you can hear me all right with that water rushing behind me. As you can see, the sun is just coming up, and it's really kind of adding this warm light to all of these reds and browns and greens from the leaves that have come down. And in western North Carolina right now, it's probably a little bit past peak in the fall colors, I think, so the leaves are coming down. We still have a little color in the trees though. And that's really one of the reasons I'm here. I think that a lot of these fallen leaves really add something to the photo. They're gonna kind of be on these rocks, wet in the foreground, really add some reds and browns and oranges to the photo, and that's gonna be really nice, I think. So just first impressions here, I think there are a couple things that make this difficult. I want that waterfall to be my main subject, but I don't want it to be the entire photo. I think there are more interesting things here. I think there's a lot of opportunity for a nice foreground. But that being said, I think there are also some things that are really making this difficult, like this tree that has fallen, which I don't think has been there that long, actually. I don't want that intersecting the waterfall or my foreground. I think that's going to complicate things and take away from where your eye is trying to look in the photo. But I do think these smaller falls kind of through here really are going to serve as a nice foreground, kind of leading the eye up into that main fall. So I think I've come up with a reasonable first composition, kind of somewhere in here looking up at the waterfall, and I'll show that to you now. Okay, so this is my first composition. I kind of have these smaller streams in the foreground, kind of leading the eye through the photo, kind of zigzagging way up to this main waterfall. And I really like these kind of orange and red and brown leaves that are kind of on these logs and rocks, and I think they really add something to this foreground. Other than that, it's going to be a pretty simple photo. I'm not really doing anything crazy. I think I'll be stopped down to maybe F11, F13. That should make everything sharp and in focus. ISO 50, probably shutter speed somewhere around 1/4 of a second, maybe just slower. And that'll all ensure that I think I get the water how I want it to look, and a nice depth of field, and a nice crisp image. There's no wind right now, so I don't have to worry about the leaves moving with that slower shutter speed. Those will still be sharp. I think also that what this composition does is it does a nice job of kind of, this is the tree I was talking about that I didn't like, that has kind of fallen, and you know, if I was standing more over here, it would kind of cross over that main fall, and I really like the placement here. It's not intrusive to my foreground or the main fall. And if anything, I think it kind of frames this spot of color right here, which I kind of like. But yeah, nothing really too complicated here. Other than that, I do have a circular polarizer on, just to take some of that glare out. I can probably show you here. There's with it off. You can kind of see the glare up on the rocks here and on the logs. See, it makes a big difference. But I'll turn it back, and we should get, there we go. Take that glare away, and that's just a nice look, I think, and it adds a little saturation to the greens and the yellows and the reds as well. So hopefully this image will turn out okay, and if it's any good, I'll show it to you now. So that first composition that you just saw was a little further down the stream there, kind of working its way up through these smaller falls to this bigger fall. And here's this tree I was talking about that's really making things a little bit difficult, but at the same time I think it's a usable element. I think it could be used for some framing or some interest. It is kind of catching some light underneath it right now, which is kind of cool. It's not totally annoying. It could be useful. But I think my next couple compositions are gonna come up in this area a little closer to the falls. I'm not sure about a foreground element. I might try to do something, I think, with these rhododendron leaves. I believe these are rhododendrons, I'm not entirely sure. Or I might do some more of the same with these rocks and these fall colors, because I do really like that. I have a couple options here in this foreground. I can get low, which will make that waterfall look a little taller. I'll be a little closer to the foreground. The foreground will look a little larger. And the waterfall will probably be closer to the top of my image. Meaning I might be cutting out some of the trees and fall colors above the falls, which I haven't really shown yet. Or I could probably shoot a little higher, a little more eye level. That'll bring more of these elements to the side and above the waterfall into play. I'm not sure I like that yet. It might make things a little chaotic, or it might be nice color. It might be, I'm not sure. It'll definitely bring this tree into play though. Yeah, it's just a really cool waterfall. I'm really excited. I have it to myself right now. Just trying to think of different ways to be creative here. I like the idea of getting low and making that foreground bigger. And I like the idea of taking a shot that most people that come here don't have. And most people are probably gonna come up here closer and get this closer, bigger shot. Which is why I really like that first foreground and that first picture. I think that's a little different, and we'll see how it turns out in the computer. But yeah, so let's come look at a couple different compositions here. I'll put them up on the screen, and hopefully I'll be able to show you some of those images as well. So this is my second composition here. I'm not sure I like it as much as the first one. We'll kind of have to wait and see until we get it on the computer. I might like it more, I'm not really sure. The light is kind of changing now. You can see the sun has come up and it's kind of creating these bright highlights on the falls here. And that's making things a little bit difficult. I'm probably, I think, going to end up exposure blending these just because these are so hot right here. The polarizer is helping to take a little bit of glare out of the rocks over here as well, but there's still, it's a little brighter than I would have hoped. But I do like the foreground elements here. I like the rocks, I like the falls weaving their way. I don't mind this tree right here. This is that fallen tree you could see in the first one. It kind of frames the waterfall. It's kind of the same angle. I don't mind it too much. But I think I may try to come up with another composition here where I either bring more of that tree in or I take it out completely. Just because it might be a little bit of a distracting element. But yeah, I'll show this picture now. Yeah, I might be fairly happy with it. We'll see. I'll show it now though. So this is another kind of eye level composition. I may have just shown you a landscape version of this composition. I didn't like it quite as much. I think I like this vertical better. And also the light is a little bit better right now, which is also helping. But I do think I like this better. It brings more of these leaves that I really like. I'm really a fan of the color of these leaves in the water and on the rocks and the logs. So I think I like this one a little better. I just think the foreground's a little stronger. I think the foreground was weaker in the landscape shot, and it was bringing in some really hot spot right over here. So I think I do like this a little bit better. I still have this tree that has fallen. I think it's framing the waterfall nicely. I think it also adds a little bit of depth to the image actually, which I didn't really notice until this shot. But I think that's kind of nice. Yeah, I don't mind this. I think it's a decent image. I think we still have these nice foreground elements just kind of zigzagging our way up to our main waterfall. And I do like the shapes in the main waterfall too. I think these zigzags, these zigzags in the foreground do a lot to match the zigzags in the falls up there, and I kind of like that. I still have my circular polarizer on just to cut the glare out. The sun is still popping around through the trees and through the clouds. But I'm at 24 millimeters right now. So again, somewhere around 1/4 of a second. F14, just because I was getting losing a little bit of sharpness down here at F11. So I got great depth of field. My ISO is hovering around 100, 150, depending on the light. But I will show that image now. But one other thing I do want to talk about is when you're shooting waterfalls, get your feet wet. Standing on the shoreline, you won't find the best compositions. You're really limiting yourself. The compositions from the shore are limited. When you get in the water, you can stand anywhere. You can be creative. You can get the shot you want. If I'm walking home with wet feet, I know it's probably been a good waterfall shoot. So it's starting to get a little crowded down there at the lower falls. So I've kind of hiked up the hill to these upper falls, and they're actually really impressive. It's a little more difficult compositionally here, I think. It's a little tighter of a space. Everything's a little bit more compressed. So like before, I had that nice foreground leading up to the waterfall, and I was quite a ways away, maybe 100 yards, maybe not that far, maybe 50 yards from the waterfall. Here I'm right on top of it. That's going to make things difficult unless I'm kind of looking straight up, but then I'm bringing the sky into play. The sky is not very interesting right now, and I don't want to do that. So I might try to play around with some of these logs. We'll see what we can come up with. I'll show it to you if I find anything good. So I'm still up at the upper waterfall. I've been really struggling to find some compositions, but here's kind of an intimate scene that I don't know if it really works, but there are some elements that I like, and I'm just going to walk you through them really quick. These logs here, where are they? Right here. I just like the way that they're kind of coming up into the scene. I think they're doing something to draw your eye to that brighter area of falls over here. I think the whole scene is kind of walking through that direction, up from this corner into this brighter area. I love again, I mentioned it a million times today. I love these leaves on the logs, particularly this leaf on the rock. Actually, I think it's a little more chaotic on this side of the frame, and you could argue a little heavier. They might be tipping this way a little bit, our photograph, but I think this leaf right here does so much to anchor this photo. It's such a focal point, especially with that slower shutter speed. That leaf isn't moving, obviously. Everything around it is. There's a lot of attention on this leaf, and I'll probably post-process this image to draw even more attention to it. When I go in here, I'm gonna let me darken this down a little bit. This is kind of the look I'm gonna go for. This brighter section here, if the sun stays, and I'll just try to use these lines to just walk you through the image to that brighter spot. And we'll see if we can come away with something useful. I don't know if we can or not, but I'll show it now. So one thing I wanted to talk about really quick in pertaining to kind of composition and the difference between this upper falls and that lower falls that I was at earlier, and I'm finding this upper fall way more difficult to photograph, and I think it has a lot to do with the depth I'm creating in the photo, and I'm not really talking about depth of field so much like when you talk about aperture and focus. I'm talking about physical kind of three-dimensional space in the photo. Here I'm finding everything is very flat. These logs right here are very close to the waterfall, and there's not a lot of space to remove myself from those logs. So I'm just kind of getting a flat picture, and I've tried a couple different compositions with these foreground elements and further back that way, and I'm just finding it incredibly difficult. I'm not really coming away with anything I like. And down at that lower waterfall, I think kind of what was going for me really was that there was a lot of depth. I was able to get far away from that waterfall, and that allowed me to use that foreground and create a three-dimensional image as opposed to a flat image, and that's a lot more satisfying. But I just wanted to take a second to mention that. I think that's really important. We talk a lot about depth of field and shutter speed and all that, but it's important to create, I think, a three-dimensional feeling in your image and not just something flat. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end the video there. This is actually my first YouTube video. I'm really excited to kind of begin my YouTube journey. I've seen a lot of creators really learn a lot and be able to teach a lot through this platform, and I'm really excited. Being on camera isn't something super comfortable for me, but it's something I'm really excited about. I think it's going to be a learning opportunity for me and a chance to kind of progress in my skills. But yeah, so I hope you've enjoyed kind of everything I've talked about in this video. Hopefully you found some of it helpful. Hopefully you enjoyed the photos, and I hope to see you again soon doing more things like this. But if you found any of it helpful, please consider hitting that like button and subscribing. It would really help me out. So yeah, I will see all of you again soon. Thank you again for watching. It really means a lot. And I'll talk to you later. See ya.